In the gentle hush of early morning, when sunlight slipped through the waves in golden ribbons, the little mermaid swam far from her coral home. The sea was calm, its colors bright and soft, and every creature moved with quiet joy. She loved the warmth of the water, the shimmer of light across the sand, and the harmony that filled her world. Yet her heart, always curious, wondered about the places where sunlight never reached. The whales had told her of deep valleys where the sea was darker than night, where strange creatures glowed in the blackness, and reefs grew not in color but in shadow. Some said those places were lonely, others said they were dangerous. But the little mermaid did not believe the darkness was something to fear. She believed that even there, beauty must live just differently than in the light. So one morning, she followed a current that flowed downward, cool and steady. It carried her past the bright coral fields, past the meadows of seagrass, and down into the twilight where the blue deepened into indigo. The water grew heavier, and the last rays of sunlight faded behind her. Yet a faint shimmer glowed ahead, soft and steady like a dream. She swam closer, and the water opened into a valley filled with shapes both familiar and strange. At first glance, the reef before her looked like any other, its towers curved gracefully, its surfaces covered with growth, but the colors were muted, washed in shades of silver, violet, and blue-black. The reef absorbed light instead of reflecting it, yet somehow it glowed from within, like starlight hidden under the waves. The little mermaid drifted in awe. Every coral branch seemed carved from shadow. Every shell gleamed with deep, mysterious color. Tiny creatures swam through the dark, their bodies flickering with faint light, soft blues, greens, and purples that blinked like distant constellations. It was as if the night sky had fallen into the ocean. The Shadow Reef was silent, but not empty. The mermaid could feel its heartbeat, a slow, steady rhythm beneath the stillness. She realized this reef did not need sunlight to thrive. It had found its own way to shine, growing in the cool embrace of the deep. She explored carefully, brushing her hands along the smooth coral. It felt cool and strong. Yet in some places, she found cracks and pale patches where the glow had faded. The small fish that lived there swam sluggishly, their light dim, her heart filled with concern. The reef was alive but struggling. She remembered how reefs in the shallows thrived through color and warmth, how creatures there worked together to keep the balance. Perhaps this place, too, needed care. But how could she bring light to a world that had no sun? But how could she bring light to a world that had no sun? She sat quietly, thinking. Then she noticed the small glowing creatures, the tiny jellyfish and plankton that drifted like sparks. They gathered near her, drawn to her gentle presence. Their faint light shimmered across her tail. She realized then that light could live anywhere, even in the deepest shadow, if only it had something to reflect upon. The little mermaid began to move slowly through the reef, her tail stirring the water in smooth circles. The motion spread the glow of the small creatures farther, lighting the cracks and corners of the coral. She sang softly as she swam, her voice a hum that vibrated gently through the water. The song carried warmth, even in the cold depths. Her movements and melody awakened the reef. The fish began to move more freely, their glow brightening. The corals shimmered faintly, as though remembering their strength. She worked for hours, stirring the currents, clearing debris, and bringing motion back to the still places. When she grew tired, she returned to the surface and called for help. The dolphins followed her down, their sleek bodies gleaming faintly, even in the dark. They swam in wide spirals, their motions stirring the deep water. The rays came too, gliding low along the sand to lift the heavy particles that had settled. Slowly, the Shadow Reef filled with life and movement once more. The glow spread through the valley, gentle and steady. The corals pulsed with color-soft blues and purples deepening like twilight. The small creatures shone brighter, forming rivers of light that wove between the coral towers. The darkness did not disappear, but it no longer felt empty. It felt alive, balanced between shadow and glow. The little mermaid watched in quiet wonder. She understood now that darkness was not the enemy of light. It was the canvas upon which light could be seen. Without one, the other could not exist. The Shadow Reef had shown her that beauty could live in silence, and that life could thrive without brilliance. As she turned to leave, the fish gathered around her, their glow forming a soft halo in the water. The reef pulsed gently, its rhythm calm and strong once more. She smiled, feeling the peace of the deep settle in her heart. When she returned home to her bright coral reef, she found the sunlight warmer and the colors richer. She realized that her time in the Shadow Reef had changed the way she saw the world. Even the brightest places held shadows, and even the darkest corners carried light. That night, as she rested in her coral bed, she dreamed of the deep valley glowing softly beneath the waves. The light and dark wove together in harmony, and the sea whispered a quiet truth, that beauty is not what shines the brightest, but what endures quietly in both shadow and light.